Welcome to the Richmond Events podcast, where we take you inside the UK's most exclusive business forums. You'll get to meet the delegates, suppliers and speakers shaping their industries. Richmond Events, this is where business gets done.
Hello and welcome to the Logistics and Supply Chain Forum here at Richmond Events. I'm joined by James. James, welcome.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So tell us, James, what your role is in the business and what brings you to Richmond Events.
So I'm the Commercial Director for Consultancy at Unipart, and so we're a supply chain and performance improvement partner. And while we're at Richmond, I'm here to meet different customers, different sectors, and understand some of the supply chain challenges that are happening across different industries.
Fantastic. So what's a shift that you're seeing happening right now in the organisation?
So in the organisation and in the wider industry, we're really seeing a shift towards understanding supply chain emissions across the end-to-end supply chain. So moving away from just looking at our own operations and looking at how different organisations are thinking about their products, the materials, the movement of the materials and the processes through which they're manufactured, and how they're really making step changes in improving those different processes.
How big a project is that? Because that is so many different levels that change has to come into.
Yeah, it's a very complex challenge. We're starting to use different technologies to be, AI and the likes, to be able to support us in expediting some of those processes and some of those ways of thinking. But it is definitely a big task to try and work towards.
And is it one thing at a time, or do you kind of take on multiple areas of that at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, everything's linked in supply chains, as you know, so it's a difficult challenge. So we try and understand kind of the whole picture and then hotspot and target on the certain areas where we can see the most value for whichever customer it is that we're working with at the time, which differs between different industries.
And how do those changes, how are they going to impact the future?
The changes will impact different businesses in different ways. So, for certain industries, it might be a bigger impact on the logistics network. In other industries, it might be a bigger impact on product engineering or sourcing. And it really does depend on the industry. But we are starting to see organisations really place a focus on sustainability agenda, not as an add-on, as more of a core component of their supply chain strategy, which is really important.
Yeah, and you say you bring in technology now, and AI being one of those. How do you bring that in?
So we work with we develop our own technology, but we also work with partners as well where it's appropriate. So whether that's working with a logistics network design tool, which starts to augment some of those technologies into the networks that we're designing, or whether it's working with sort of life cycle assessment tools to understand the emissions of a product as it goes through its life cycle. Again, it depends on which customer and which industry, but we started to use a blend of different technology tools to enable that.
And are you seeing that as part of your discussions that you're getting involved in today?
Yeah, some of the discussions. So some of them more so than others. And again, it's the industry that you're working with. But in consumer goods, for example, we're really seeing a shift in that, and that's driven largely by the customer demanding that sustainability is front and centre of people's decision making, and companies' decision making. Other industries slightly less so, but they'll catch up.
And are you finding that drive from them is because of their customers and their customers before them as well?
Yeah, oftentimes, yeah. So a customer nowadays, they don't want to see single-use plastics. They don't want to. They want to consider the sustainability credentials of products that they're using way more so than they would have 10 years ago. And so, yeah, the customers that we interface with are interfacing with their customers, and that's knocking through, which is positive.
Wow. And it is a positive. So what are the positives of bringing sort of supply chain leaders together for days like today at Richmond Events?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear the different perspectives from different industries. So with the work that we do, we are interfacing with different customers on a daily basis, and they're all in different sectors. But by bringing them all together on the same day and asking quite similar questions of sort of similar people, similar roles within different organisations, you get quite starkly different answers in certain circumstances. And so it's good to understand that and see how those different trends translate across different companies.
And do you hear sort of an answer from one area that you then think, actually, although it's not directly linked, we could utilise that over here and it would impact those rays away?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's the food industry as an example. We were talking to a food manufacturer, and then we were talking to a retailer, grocer type organisation, and they were approaching it with a slightly different approach in terms of sustainability and resilience. But it was worthwhile having those conversations and linking those two organisations together to see what their perspectives are. So we'll do that later on.
And how quickly can those changes start to be seen to be made as well?
So there's a real balance, right? The transformational change can often take a long time. It can take a long time, and it's a long piece. But there are always quick wins that can be achieved, whether that's in sustainability or in efficiency or quality. And so it's really important that those quick wins are achieved so that people can start to see the movement, the patterns, and the benefits that are being enabled. But the longer term change is also really important to drive that kind of step change improvement as well.
James, sounds like there's some really exciting conversations happening. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.